World Childhood Educators Day today, and many in Australia are marking the job by walking off the job, striking for better pay and conditions. So what is happening in this sector? Early Childhood Education Shadow Minister Angie joins me now here in the studio. Thanks very much for your time. So strike action today. I guess the easiest question is, do they deserve more pay?
Well, I think the question is, we've had 100 days of the Albanese government and there's been no movement across the sector whatsoever. So the educators today are telling me they want to be heard by this government, which is ignoring their pay and conditions right now.
But what's your view? Do they deserve that higher pay rate?
Well, I think, you know, a fair day's work for a fair day's pay is a pretty good thing. Tom, across Australia, that's what we celebrate as Australians, and they're having their say today to make sure they put some pressure on this government to see some movement.
So what's a fair pay increase then? Well,
that's up to the Fair Work Commission. And as we've seen, the Labor Party supporting aged care workers' pay increases, you know, early childhood educators are wondering why they're being left behind by this government.
So should Labor do the same offer? Because what they've put forward for aged care, it's a similar issue for childcare, because if you increase aged care pay, either the centres or the government or consumers have to pick up the tab.
That's right.
So Labor said we'll pay. So should they do the same for childcare workers?
Well, are they favouring aged care workers over childcare workers? I don't believe that's good government. In terms of who pays for it, that is a question that the Minister herself couldn't answer on your show yesterday I think it was. She didn't know where that money was coming from. Certainly the Albanese government is agreed to pay for the aged care workers increase, and early childhood educators rightly are asking why are they being left behind.
So, but what's your view on who you think should pay then? You're saying pay increase is warranted, so who pays? Because if the government doesn't pay, ultimately it's probably going to be parents.
Well, 51% of the sector is private enterprise, and we know that private enterprise doesn't appreciate union-wide, sector-wide bargaining either. And so how is all of this rolled up into one big mess going to help the early childhood educators? You quite rightly ask who is going to pay, and you know, employers are struggling now with the costs of running a business. They didn't have a voice at the Jobs and Skills Talkfest. They don't feel that they've been heard, and I think that Labor needs to actually move forward on this. Let's have some movement. They've done nothing. There's been their promise leading into the election was to conduct an ACCC inquiry, a productivity commission review. That has not been undertaken. There has been no movement. They've been in government for 100 days. And we've seen nothing. We've seen no decisions.
Well, shouldn't they be waiting for this review? This is an all-encompassing review of a system in which increased subsidies have been paid for years. The Coalition tipped a lot of money in this, but they were eaten up by increased fees. So we need to find out how much centres maybe are making and what the issue might be there. Maybe even exploring government-runs options that happen at primary school, high school, but not at preschool, for example.
Well, the increased childcare subsidy is going to cost $1.6 billion in its first year. And we're seeing already centres increase their prices. We're seeing centres cap their enrolments. And so it's quite possible that the savings that parents, or the extra childcare subsidy that parents will receive, will be eaten up well before this comes into place. So hence the review's a good idea. Next July.
Yeah, hence the review's a good idea.
So how is the Labor government going to implement that by next July when they haven't even started the Productivity Commission
yeah, as I said, this is
ACCC price capping mechanism, Tom?
Under the Coalition too. But let's
they haven't done any work. So this is typical Labor, scratch the surface. There's no detail. We've seen no detail on the legislation. We've seen no detail on the policy. And so, you know, Australian parents are at their mercy.
Let's go back to the pay question though. Should the federal government pay for an increase for childcare workers? Well,
if the federal government is paying for aged care workers' increases, then why aren't they paying for early childhood educators' increases?
Sure, we can put that to them, but what's your view?
Well,
they should?
This is a matter for the Fair Work Commission.
Well, they set the rates. They don't decide who pays.
Well,
so are you saying the federal government should pay for the increase?
Well, no, what I'm saying is the federal government has agreed to pay for aged care workers' increases. So why are they agreeing in one service sector and not agreeing in another service?
And that's a fair enough question for Labor, but I'm asking you, as the Shadow Minister, are you saying the federal government should pay for the childcare?
Well, I'm not in government.
No, but you're in opposition.
I'm in opposition, so this is a matter for the government to decide.
But you're asking a question rather than saying they should.
Well, Australians should rightly be asking these questions, Tom, of their government. What are they doing in the early childhood sector? Because you know, they are funding an increase to aged care workers and they're not funding an increase at this point in time.
So will you form a view on who should pay for a childcare workers increase?
Well, this is a matter for the Fair Work Commission and this is a matter for the
Fair Work
Albanese
Commission doesn't
government.
decide who pays.
Well, the Fair Work Commission decides how much of an increase will occur.
Sure.
And the
so
Labor
once we know that, will then you have a view on who should pay for it?
Well, I'm not putting my view on the table right now, Tom, because this is up to the government to solve this problem within the sector, not the opposition.
Okay. All right. Angie Bell, got to leave it there. Thank you.